Well, good evening. Welcome to our Good Friday worship service. Tonight, we finish the walk to the cross with Jesus. Tonight, we want you to think about these events in a new light. Some of you have only heard this story recently, and some of you have known it your whole life. Today, like yesterday, we will view these events through the eyes of the disciples. We will wonder with them and think about what they may have felt or thought as Jesus revealed more of what was to come. And most of all, we will see ourselves in them. There are no guided meditations tonight, but there are still cards and pencils in the pews, and there will be time and space for you to reflect. So as you find yourself in the thoughts of the disciples, feel free to write or draw what comes to mind as we all kneel together at the foot of the cross. So now, would you please stand as we begin our worship? may be seated. Hear this word from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15. At daybreak, the chief priest with the elders, legal experts, and the whole Sanhedrin formed a plan. They bound Jesus, led him away, and turned him over to Pilate. Pilate questioned him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "That's what you say." The chief priests were accusing him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Aren't you going to answer? What about all these accusations?" But Jesus gave no more answers, so that Pilate marveled. During the festival, Pilate released one prisoner to them, whomever they requested. A man named Barabbas was locked up with the rebels who had committed murder during an uprising. The crowd pushed forward and asked Pilate to release someone, as he regularly did. Pilate answered them, "Do you want me to release you, the king of the Jews?" He knew that the chief priest had handed him over because of jealousy. But the chief priest stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas to them instead. Pilate replied, "Then what do you want me to do with the one you call the King of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Why? What wrong has he done?" They shouted even louder, "Crucify him." Pilate wanted to satisfy the crowd, so he released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus whipped, then handed him over to be crucified.
I swore I'd stand with him, but fear knocked me down. I ran.
I stayed. I couldn't stop the suffering, but I stood in his love.
I disappeared. Sorrow overwhelmed me.
At the foot of the cross, the sky has darkened. The air is heavy. The sound of hammers has faded, replaced by labored breathing and gathered, scattered, really, are those who loved him most. So we begin with Peter and James and John. Peter is here at the foot of the cross, but not too close. Not as close as he had once promised. Not as bold as he once believed himself to be. Just hours ago, Peter swore, "If I have to die with you, I will not deny you." And yet, before the rooster crowed, he had denied him 3 times. He had done the unthinkable. 3 times he said, "I don't know the man." Now the cross stands before him, and with it comes a crushing truth. He did know him. He loved him. And still, he failed him. He turned away when things got tough. Peter's struggle at the cross is more than just grief. He cannot unhear his own voice denying Jesus. He cannot undo what has been done, and so he stands at a distance, caught between love and regret, wondering, is there still a place for me? And we know that place, don't we? We know what it is to fail what we love, to fall short of who we thought we were, to carry the quiet ache of I should have done differently. And Good Friday meets us here. In the place where love and failure collide. James, the brother of John, he's there. He dreamed of glory. He once asked Jesus, "Grant us to sit one at your right and one at your left." He imagined a kingdom with power and victory and triumph. But now at the cross, those dreams seem to unravel. There are indeed two at Jesus' left and to his right. Two criminals. They are crosses, not thrones. And James stands face to face with the collapse of everything he thought following Jesus would mean. I wonder what we think following Jesus means. His struggle is with disillusionment. This is not how it is supposed to go. This is not the Messiah that I imagined. And we know that place too. We know what it is when life does not unfold as we had hoped. When faith does not shield us from suffering. When God does not act the way that we expected. Good Friday meets us there in shattered expectations, in the silence where certainty once lived. And then there is John. John, the beloved, the disciple. We remember last night that he was so close to Jesus, he put his head on his chest. He could hear his heartbeat. He is the one who says, while others scatter, John draws near, and he stands at the foot of the cross. When everyone is far away, when everyone is turned away, he's close enough to hear Jesus speak. He's close enough to hear his ragged breath, close enough to witness his suffering without turning away. But do not mistake his presence for ease. To stay is of its own kind of suffering. John must watch the one he loves endure agony, and he cannot fix it. He cannot take it away. He can only remain. His struggle is helpless love, to love deeply and yet be unable to do anything about it, to be present in pain without the power to remove it. And we know that place as well. We know it as we sit beside hospital beds or stand at gravesides to hold the hands of those we cannot heal. We know the quiet agony of love that cannot fix what is broken. Good Friday, it meets us there in the courage to remain when we would rather run. Peter, James, and John, they are not so different from us. We are Peter when we carry our failures. We are James when our expectations collapse. We are John when love asks us to stay in the face of suffering. And here's the mystery of Good Friday. Jesus does not come down from the cross to meet us in those places. Instead, he enters them. All of it. You see, the cross is not the absence of God. It is the deepest revelation of the presence of God. A God who does not stand far off from human pain, but who steps into it fully, completely, without turning away, without hurting back. And as Jesus breathes his last, it seems like the end, failure, disappointment, helplessness, but Good Friday is not the end of the story. And we should know that too. It is the very place where love refuses to give up. So tonight, do not rush past the cross. Stand with all of them. Because even here, even now, God is speaking to your heart in a love that endures all things. And that love is the love that has the final word.
And now from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23. They also led 2 other criminals to be executed with Jesus. When they arrived at the place called the Skull, they crucified him, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." They drew lots as a way of dividing up his clothing. The people were standing around watching, but the leaders sneered at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself if he really is the Christ sent from God, the chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him. They came up to him, offering him sour wine and saying, "If you really are the King of the Jews, save yourself." Above his head was a notice of the formal charge against him. It read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging next to Jesus insulted him, "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." Responding, the other criminal spoke harshly to him, "Don't you fear God, seeing that you've also been sentenced to die? We are rightly condemned, for we are receiving the appropriate sentence for what we did. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "I assure you that today you will be with me in paradise."
I froze. Nothing made sense.
We felt powerless, small, yet he still died for us.
We come again to the cross, not to the center of the story, but to its edges. Because not all the disciples stood in the spotlight. Not all spoke boldly or famous questions. Some were quieter, some were overlooked. Some were known mostly by their names and little else. And yet they were there. Bartholomew, Thaddeus, James the Less, Andrew, and Simon, the ones that we would call ordinary. Bartholomew had once been seen by Jesus under the fig tree, seen deeply, personally. Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit, is what Jesus had said about him. He was known by Jesus. You were known by Jesus. But now at the cross, he struggles. Do I matter in the story? Am I seen even here at the cross? And we know that place. We know what it is to feel small amidst all the louder voices in the room, those who seem more successful, more put together. We know what it's like to wonder if our faith, our presence, our lives truly matter. And Good Friday meets us there in the quiet question of being seen. And the cross answers not with recognition from the crowd, but with the gaze of Christ who sees even the unnoticed. Thaddeus had once asked Jesus, "Lord, how is it that you will reveal yourself to us and not to the world?" And so Thaddeus wanted understanding like we all do. He wanted clarity about how God would work. But now the cross, there's no clarity. There's only mystery. He doesn't know what's happening. How could this possibly be revelation? How is this salvation? How is this God at work? Thaddeus struggles in the midst of the tension between mystery and meaning. I want to understand, but I don't. And we know that place too. We want our faith to make sense. We want suffering to have clear expectations and explanations. We want God's ways to be understandable. But Good Friday does not explain itself. It invites us into the mystery. It invites us into more. It invites us to shatter all of our expectations or explanations about God. Good Friday is a mystery where love is revealed not through answers, but through surrender. And James, the less, known even by his name as the lesser, the smaller. Not James the bold, not James the outspoken, just James the less. Maybe you have felt that way. At the cross, his struggle deepens. I am small in life. Am I small here too? Is there a place for someone like me and something so great? He stands in the shadow of something immense, the suffering Christ. The weight of this moment and his own feelings of insignificance. To wonder if what we bring is enough is a question that we all have. But Good Friday meets us there. Because the cross is not only for the great and the bold, it is for the small and the quiet, the ones who feel like they do not measure up. And in the presence of Christ, even the smallest life is held within infinite love. And Andrew was the one who brought people to Jesus. He brought Peter. He brought the boy with the loaves and the fish. He was always connecting others to Christ. But now at the cross, Andrew faces a painful question. What have I brought them to? He brought his brother to Jesus, and now Jesus is dying. He followed faithfully. Now it seems to lead to just loss. Andrew's struggle is the tension between trust and outcome. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe this was not the path I thought it was. And we know that place. When we misunderstand Jesus, we have invited others into faith, into hope, into trust, and then life does not go as expected, and people say, "Where is your God in all of this?" And Good Friday meets us there, not by undoing the cross, but by showing that even there, especially there, God is at work in ways we cannot see. And Simon the Zealot, he's there too, passionate, driven, longing for change. He knew what it was like to believe deeply, to want transformation, to long for God's kingdom to come with power. But at the cross, this doesn't seem like power. This feels like defeat. It feels like the battle is lost, and all that zeal has nowhere to go. There is no fight to win in Simon. No enemy to overthrow. No action that can stop what is happening. Simon struggles with powerlessness. And we know that place too. When we see injustice, when we see suffering, when we see pain, and we want to act, we want to do something, we want to change things, but sometimes we are left standing still, unable to intervene. And Good Friday meets us there, because the cross is the very place where human power reaches its limit and divine love takes over. All of them remind us that discipleship is not always loud or visible. It's quiet and uncertain. And here's the grace of Good Friday. Jesus does not die only for the bold. He dies for the unnoticed, for the confused, for the different, for the small, for the questioning. He gathers all of it, every hidden struggle you will ever have, every quiet fear that's maybe brewing in you right now, and carries it into the very heart of God. Because the love revealed here does not depend on how visible we are. So tonight we stand with the quiet ones, and we hear, even now, you are seen by Jesus. You are held. You are part of this story. And that love, that kind of love, will have the final word.
And now from the Gospel of John. The soldiers took Jesus prisoner. Carrying his cross by himself, he went out to a place called Skull Place, in Aramaic Golgotha. That's where they crucified him, and 2 others with him, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a public notice written and posted on the cross. It read, "Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. Therefore, the Jewish chief priests complained to Pilate, "Don't write the King of the Jews, but this man said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I've written, I've written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and his sandals and divided them into 4 shares, one for each soldier. His shirt was seamless, woven as one piece from the top to the bottom. They said to each other, "Let's not tear it. Let's cast lots to see who will get it." This was to fulfill the scripture. They divided my clothes among themselves, and they cast lots for my clothing. That's what the soldiers did. Jesus' mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene stood near the cross. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that time on, this disciple took her into his home.
I needed answers. Pain made me doubt everything.
I longed for certainty, but all I saw was darkness.
The sky is dim, the earth feels unsteady, and hope itself seems to hang by a thread. And among those who once followed closely, who walked dusty roads and listened to his voice, stand two more disciples, Thomas and Philip. Thomas is there at the cross, but not with certainty. Thomas, who would later say, "Unless I see, unless I touch, I will not believe," is already beginning to feel the terror of doubt start to creep in. Because what he sees now makes no sense. This is no life. This is death. This is not victory. This is defeat. This is not God as he imagined, but something else entirely. Thomas's struggle at the cross is not rebellion. It's disorientation. How can this be true? How can the one who raised the dead now be dying? How can God be here in this? And so doubt begins to creep in. Maybe you've experienced that in your own faith life, when doubt begins to creep in. And we know that place where God seems far away. God doesn't answer us in the way that we want. We know what it is to pray and hear silence, to believe and yet feel belief slipping through our fingers. And Good Friday meets us here, not by silencing our questions, but by honoring them. Because the cross, even doubt is held within the presence of God. And then there's Philip. Philip stands nearby. His heart is heavy with another kind of struggle. He had once said to Jesus, "Lord, show us the Father and we will be satisfied." He wanted clarity, vision, assurance. We want those same things too. He wanted to see God. And Jesus had answered him, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father." But now what does Philip see? A beaten body, a crown of thorns, a man rejected by humanity, suffering, dying, and somewhere deep inside him rises the question, is this what God looks like? God who would act, would intervene, a God who would make things make sense. Instead, he's given a God who suffers. We long for signs. We long for clarity. We want reassurance. We want a faith that feels so certain, that a God who feels unmistakable, but instead we often meet God with mystery, with a presence that is not always obvious, not a God in power like we would like, but a God in vulnerability. And Good Friday meets us here in the tension between what we hoped for and what is actually before us. Thomas and Philip stand at the cross, and through them we see ourselves, don't we? We see Thomas when doubt rises uninvited, when questions outnumber answers. We are Philip when we long to see God more clearly, when faith feels obscured. And here is the quiet, radical truth of Good Friday. Jesus does not wait for Thomas to resolve his doubt. He does not wait for Philip to completely understand. He gives himself fully right here, right now, in the middle of all of our confusion. The cross does not eliminate doubt. It reveals something deeper, that God is present even when we do not understand, that God is present in the things we don't want to happen, that God is present in our own pain, physically, mentally, spiritually. Jesus does not turn away from them, and he does not turn away from us. So if today you find yourself full of questions, if your faith feels uncertain, if God feels hidden, you are not outside the story. You are standing exactly where these disciples stood. And the cross is not a barrier to faith. It is the place where God meets us. Because even here, especially here, God is being revealed, not as certainty, but as love that remains, even when we cannot see it yet. And that kind of love, that love, is the love that has the final word.
from the Gospel of Matthew. When Judas, who betrayed Jesus, saw that Jesus was condemned to die, he felt deep regret. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders and said, "I did wrong because I betrayed an innocent man." But they said, "What is that to us? That's your problem." Judas threw the silver pieces into the temple and left. Then he went and hanged himself. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, the whole earth was dark. At about 3, Jesus cried out with a loud shout, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you left me?" After hearing him, some standing there said, "He's calling Elijah." One of them ran over, took a sponge full of vinegar, and put it on a pole, and he offered it to Jesus to drink. But the rest of them said, "Let's see if Elijah will come and save him." Again, Jesus cried out with a loud shout. Then he died. Look, the curtain of the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised. After Jesus' resurrection, they came out of their graves and went into the holy city, where they appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and what had just happened, they were filled with awe and said, "This was certainly God's Son." Many women were watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to serve him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons.
My past rose up against me. Did I belong at all?
I believed my sin too great, but his love was greater still.
Matthew had already known what it was like to be on the outside, to be a tax collector, to betray his own people, a collaborator, a man whose life had been defined by choices others judged and never forgot about him. And yet Jesus had seen something else in him. And Jesus had called him and said, "Follow me," welcomed him into his inner circle. Matthew felt that grace. But at the cross, something old begins to stir within him. As the accusations start to fly, as the crowd rejects Jesus, Matthew feels that familiar shadow creeping in. This is what rejection feels like. This is what happens to those who don't belong. And beneath it is a deeper fear. What if I never truly belonged either? What if grace has limits? Matthew's struggle is the haunting persistence of the past. Even when we have been forgiven, we like to pick up our past, to be shaped by past mistakes, past identities, past failures. We hear the voice that whispers, "Now what? What will I do now that Jesus is gone? You don't really belong to anyone now." And Good Friday meets us there. Because at the cross, Jesus does not distance himself from sinners. He is counted among them. And the one who called Matthew now hangs between two criminals. Not to reinforce Matthew's shame, but to reveal that nothing in Matthew's past places him outside the reach of God, and nothing in your past puts you outside the reach of God's love and grace. And then there's Judas. We don't like to think of ourselves as Judas. Judas is no longer standing comfortably around the others, not even near the cross. His story has already begun to unravel. He has betrayed Jesus. He has watched it unfold. He has seen the consequences of what he put into motion. And now, somewhere in the shadows, Judas is overwhelmed, not by guilt, but by despair. What have I done? Is there any way back from this? And Judas's struggle is not just what he did, it is a belief that he is beyond redemption, that he cannot be forgiven for this, that the door has closed, that grace cannot reach his life. And we know that place too, more than we might want to admit. Not betrayal on the same scale, but moments that we cannot undo, choices we wish we could take back, wounds that we have caused other people that we cannot heal. And the question rises, is there still a way back? And Good Friday meets us there in our darkest places of regret. But here's the tragedy of Judas. He cannot see what the cross is revealing. He cannot see that even this, even the worst betrayal that we can imagine, is not beyond the reach of divine mercy. It is impossible not to notice. Peter denied, Judas betrayed, both failed, both wept, but one returns, but one cannot believe he can. The difference is in the ability to trust in mercy. And this is where the cross speaks its deepest truth. There is no failure that places us beyond the love of God, but we must be open to receive it. Because even here, Jesus does not say, Matthew, I made a mistake choosing you. He does not redefine him by his past. The cross does not erase grace. It reveals how deep it is, more than we can imagine. Even as things are falling apart, Matthew is still the one who was called, still the one who followed, still the one who is loved. And so are you. We are Matthew when we are haunted by who we used to be. We are Judas when we are overwhelmed by what we have done, when we think we cannot be forgiven. We are the ones who wonder if grace is real or if it has limits. And into that place, the cross speaks, not with words, but with presence. Jesus is not born to condemn the world. He does not draw boundaries around who is worthy. He gives himself completely for the ones who feel unworthy, for the ones who feel beyond repair, for the ones who are not sure they can come back. So if tonight, if you carry the weight of your past, if you feel defined by your failures, if you wonder whether grace is enough, look at the cross. Because here is the truth of Good Friday. It dares to proclaim there is always a way back. There is always enough grace. There is always enough love. And as disciples who move forward from the cross, we're called as children to come home. We're called to be the very ones who bear our own cross, that we give away everything within ourselves except love and grace and mercy. Because here, especially here, love is speaking, and that love will have the final word.